And welcome to another Capitalize Your Best podcast where we help you capitalize on what you do best to grow your revenue. My name is Gordon Duncan. I'm the owner of Capitalize Marketing and Consulting. And the purpose of this podcast is to do just that. I offer marketing and business advice and marketing strategies to help you grow your business. So thank you again for tuning in. On Mondays, we have the This Is Going to Hurt podcast, which focuses on making it better you. In that area, we're focused on things like mindset and physical well-being. But here we talk about growing your business. I am fresh off the Capitalize Your Best Life workshop, the Who's in Charge Here seminar. That's a workshop where we were helping people develop the mindset to help them achieve their goals. And it was really a cross pollination between making a better you and growing your business. And all those things came in there. So I looked out in the room and we had a graphic designer, we had a realtor, we had a nonprofit founder, we had an engineer who'd been working on cars for 40 plus years. We had an asset manager, and I'm sitting there and I had the privilege of walking them through mindset challenges and mindset strategies to help them achieve their goals. So, of course, that bridges over into this podcast about growing your business. So, what I would like to do is, first of all, thank you for being here again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing and subscribing. But I really would like to focus on a story or a thing I told at the very beginning of today's seminar that I think is going to help you with your business. So it's going to be really a combination of making a better you, but really I'm going to walk away with strategies that I think are going to help you with your business. So it begins with me running. Now, when I'm running, I run oftentimes on the road because neighborhoods in Virginia often will have sidewalks. So there's one cardinal rule of running on the road, and that is to run on the left-hand side so that you can face traffic. If I run on the right-hand side, there's traffic coming up behind me, and I'm not able to see them, and it puts me in danger. But if I run on the left-hand side, I'm able to face the traffic coming forward, and I'm far enough away from the traffic to be behind me. Inevitably, what happens is that someone will come towards me and they're not paying attention, and they won't notice me until the exact moment they're upon me, and they'll their eyeballs will get as big as paper plates, and they'll move their car real quick, and they'll lay down their horn. And it's not a quick horn like, hey, look out. It's an extended, angry longhorn that goes well past our interaction. When that happens, I often go, why are you doing that? Like, I'm not even here anymore. I mean, like, you're not letting me know I see you. I can see you clearly. And I begin to wonder, are you late for work and you're angry? Are you angry that you're in the car going to work and I'm running? Are you angry because I'm working out and you're not? And then simultaneously I have my own thoughts like, I've got to be safe. That person's being a butthead. And amazingly, all of these thoughts about thoughts happen just like that, just in the time that the car will pass me. Now, I don't know what that person is really thinking. We say that all the time. I know what you're thinking, but we don't know what we're thinking half the time, much less what anyone else is thinking. So I don't know what they're thinking. Um, but I know what I'd like to think. I would like to think, hey, I hope I didn't ruin their day. I've got to be safe. I need to be careful while I'm out here. That's my best. But often I think that person's a butthead. They're not need to pay attention to get off their phone, right? And again, all of that happens in a millisecond. What I'd like to do is respond at my best. Thankfulness, I'm okay, wishing them well. But that takes brain training. And that is not often something I've thought about. So I first became aware of brain training after the onset of my seizures and epilepsy. I mean, in college, the philosophy courses, I read things like As a Man Thinketh. And in seminary, we studied passages like Take Every Thought Captive to Christ. But I didn't really ever study any sort of brain training. But it came about because of my epilepsy. I had my first known seizure in Father's Day of 2012, which where I spaced out in the car And everyone asked me if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, I just got lost in my thoughts for a minute. But they increased in intensity and frequency. Ultimately, I had a seizure during a sermon, and there was an ER doctor in the crowd who came up to me and said, "You had a seizure." And I was like, I didn't have a seizure because I thought seizures were only grand mal falling into the ground, that kind of thing. And he's like, you have what the layman's call a silent seizure, or what technically is called a partial complex seizure. You're partially aware. And a neurologist was wonderful and instrumental in changing my life from that point going forward. But I went through a couple of year journey where my brain didn't work. I was actively having a lot of seizures, and I was on a combination of meds. So, for example, they put me on the initial med, and they said, call us if you have a seizure. So I took one pill, had a seizure, called them, and they said, we'll take two pills. And I had another seizure, called them, put me on three pills. At that point in time, they said, hey, we're at the maximum dosage of that pill. We want to try you on another. But they don't just take you off the first one, they gradually decrease the first one and increase the second one, excuse me. So that means I'm on two pills of the first one and one pill of the second one, and there's a gradual progress there. Well, between the seizures and the meds, I couldn't think. I remember as a pastor leading a Bible study, about 15 people in the room, and I had no understanding what anybody was saying. None. I didn't understand what they were saying at all. And I was terrified. I was like, I'm supposed to be leading this Bible study. I don't know what these words mean. I guess I pulled it together at some point in time. And then I remember working and consulting with some eye doctors. They knew I was having seizures, but the people in their office didn't. And I went up to the front desk to speak to Christine, and she said something to me, and her words didn't make sense. And I just stood there. And either I had a seizure or I just couldn't process her words. I remember going for a run, and in 2012, I ran three marathons, but in 2013, during this season, I went for a run and I had to stop about a half a mile in because I couldn't make my feet keep moving. I just stood in that parking lot and cried. My brain wasn't working, my body wasn't working. And over the course of a couple of years, we eventually got the right medicine to get my seizures under control. And my diet changed, and all of a sudden I could think again. It was like I got my brain back. But just because I could think again didn't mean my brain worked it normally did. I had to teach my brain to think. So I began studying anything I could. Authors from the New Thought movement in the early 1900s, Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, listening to podcasts along that, like anything I could do that would help me learn how to think again. And I discovered something called the Reticular Activation System, the RAS. The RAS is built to help us think simply. If someone says, what's your name? I go, Gordon. I don't have to think about it most of the time. But that's because the RAS has created a neural pathway for that. If I go to tie my shoes, I don't have to think about it. I have neural pathways to help me do that. So if I want to learn something, I have to create new neural pathways to learn how to do it. Or if I want to think differently, I have to create new neural pathways. Well, 10 years ago, I didn't work with real estate agents at all. And now about two-thirds of my clients are real estate agents. So if I go for a run, I notice for sale signs everywhere. I'm like, oh, there's Keller Williams. Oh, there's Century 21. There's Long and Foster. I didn't even notice those before. If I was wanting to buy a house, I would notice every for sale sign. But otherwise, most people just go through the day, don't really notice those things. But the RAS system is helping me think simply, and it's also making me more aware of opportunities that are related to something I'm thinking about. The brain wants to work simply. That's what the reticular activation system does. Now, having said all that, this is how it applies to your business. If you want to grow your business, you've got to begin thinking differently. You can't say, I'm going to have a successful business because I've conditioned my brain then to think it's something that might happen in the future. I have to think I have a successful business. If I want to be able to respond to difficult situations better, I have to tell myself I respond to difficulty supremely. All things come easily for me. I run a multi-million-dollar marketing company. I need to put those things in the present tense. And that's not far from what Jesus instructed his disciples when he told them, when you pray, pray as if you've already received that thing which you're praying for. So when we begin to pattern our brain towards what we want, not what we will have, or what we think is not going to happen, don't want to happen, if we begin to think what we want, all of a sudden our brain begins to transform. We begin to think as a successful person and then find more successful opportunities and create successful businesses. Every successful person I know does this. My mentors think differently than I do. They answer problems differently. They respond to questions differently. They have different approaches. They just think differently than I do. When you study successful athletes, when you look at Kobe Bryant, he had one of the most fierce mentalities, if not the most fierce mentality of any athlete I've ever seen. They approach things as if success is what's expected because they have patterned their brain to do the same. So in your business, if you want to grow your business, you have to act as one who already has a successful business. And you're like, well, how do I do that? I was like, well, you begin to write those things down. Every successful person I know writes those things down. I own a successful marketing company. My marketing company makes multi-million dollars a year. I respond to challenges easily. My health is fantastic. I am a Boston Marathon qualifier. I mean, we begin to speak differently. And whereas those things don't make things magically to happen, they put us in the mindset to make those things easier to happen. Because as Henry Ford said, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're correct. So if we think, oh, this market sucks, I'm never going to grow, you're going to have a hard time growing. But if I think this market is in a perfect opportunity for my business to grow, I have a business that is perfectly designed to help people in this economy. All of a sudden, when we go into meetings, we think more confidently, I'm able to help you, not, oh no, they may not pay me. So putting all that together is my recommendation. Know exactly what you want in your business. Make it specific and then begin to write it down as something you already have and do it over and over and over again. Because you've got to repattern your brain away from the negativity and the criticism and the skepticism and put it more towards what you planning to be in your business as if it's present day. Because the RS is going to change the way you think. And that way you're going to find more opportunities. You're going to see the real estate signs when you're out. You're going to see the opportunities you didn't see when you're out. And as a result, when you're prepared in that way and you're speaking in the present tense, you will grow your business. So, friends, I hope this is an encouragement. This is a brief summary of what we talked about in the Capitalize Your Best seminar. And I also want to encourage you is that next Tuesday, Tuesday the 26th, I have a Capitalized Marketing Lab called Lead Driven Social Media. And if you're interested in going to that, please reach out to me. Just message me, Gordon Duncan, everywhere you see, or look for Capitalized Marketing and Consulting. And I will make sure you get a registration link. And as a back to school special, it's absolutely free. So, friends, thanks for listening. I hope this has been encouragement. Reach out. There's a lot more to this topic. We'll talk more about it soon. But now we will talk to you later. Thanks so much.